Back for round two. Gonna dab for you guys. If you're dabbing CBD like me, go ahead and do it. Oh, alright. So, I know, I'm sorry. Back with more Melisandre stuff. But here's the thing, I've been doing what I call a deep dicking of Melisandre and Bloodraven connections, right? So I actually... Remember, I fell asleep to the chapter last night. Then I re-listened to it now. 3 times. Because I was like, yo, there's a lot of shit here. Melisandre, she even says it in her chapter. She's the greatest of her order. She's the greatest fire priestess to look into the flames and see the future in her order. I don't know if that encompasses shadow binding, but she specifically says she's the goat, right? Mind you, she doesn't necessarily know if there's someone who's better than her out there, right? Because she even says that even though she's the goat, she still has to practice to maintain her skill. So if she's constantly only been looking for shit for Stannis and now Jon Snow, why would she be looking for a rival, right? She looks for threats to her person, but she doesn't look for somebody that's going to knock her out as most powerful red priestess of all time. So that's besides the point. Couple of the things I wanted to talk about. I actually did take a bunch of like little things that'll fire my brain up. Okay, so Melisandre is a fire white. Now that's not confirmed, and it's not really a theory, but it's just an idea that I have, right? So let me give you some backing to that. Melisandre doesn't sleep. She does, but she sort of just dazes off for like an hour or so. She mentions how she prays and begs for the time to come for her to no longer need to sleep. She says, I would rather stay awake and just look into the flames, being bathed in fire the whole time. Now, it's actually very symbolic, right? But the only thing that would bring her something where she doesn't have to sleep is death, right? So that's what I kind of mean. Like, she's kind of a fire white and maybe doesn't know it, right? A couple of other things. She doesn't eat. She doesn't need to eat, but she does it to sort of put on a front so that people don't look at her weird, right? So she needs very little sleep. She doesn't eat. Also, she keeps thinking about how the abilities that she's given cost her a lot. It cost her pain, right? So I think in the process of her becoming a Shadowbinder, she actually becomes a Fire White. She actually dies and then is brought back as a Fire White, right? So the Drowned God, the Greyjoys, specifically Euron, right? They believe in the Drowned God. Obviously, all of the Ironborn do, but what is dead may never die, right? So they, the Ironborn that become drowned priests basically literally go out into the ocean, drown themselves, and then perform CPR, right? They don't know it's CPR, but they just basically beat on the person's chest and then they come back. Not everybody comes back, right? So that's kind of, another connection that I just wanted to mention. But, Melisandre, right? So there's probably an operation, right? It's a procedure, right? Varys, similar thing happens to him. R'hllor's faith, is very common over in Essos. There's other faiths, obviously, but, Varys was probably Oh, yeah, by the way, the art next to me over here, that's Stannis and Melisandre. It's by Bella Bergolts. She does, like, the best art for A Song of Ice and Fire ever. Really good, awesome, old-timely looking Renaissance-era portraits. I don't know if she does them digitally or if she paints them. Like, I know it's digital art, but, like, it's hard to distinguish between oil paintings and Bella Bergolt's works. So, that there's that. But anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah, by the way, the audio should be coming out both speakers this time. Figured out how to do that. Also, you see the flames around me? Yeah. Oh, sir, I'm just getting fancy. Thank you for giving me your money. I promise you will feel as though it is, you get your dollar's worth. I promise. Or, you get your money's worth here on Patreon. All right, so let me get back on track. Right, so Varys, right? So the dude that cuts off his dick and throws it in a flame, right? And the flame turns blue and speaks to him is probably a red priest. And, Varys being a child didn't exactly know what was happening. Obviously, we don't really know if Varys is telling the truth, but that situation is presented to us, right? And I just wanted to, show you that, R'hllor will do something for you if you sacrifice for him. It causes pain, right? So technically, that priest that did that to Varys wasn't the one who was receiving the pain, but Varys still received the pain. So, he got an answer from R'hllor. Maybe it was a different god. Maybe it was a dark version of R'hllor, right? Okay, so since I kind of feel like I've established Melisandre as a firewhite, one of the things that we have to realize is that she's also a shadowbinder, right? What if the only way to get those abilities is to become a firewhite? Like, you have to be killed, brought back in the name of R'hllor. R'hllor has to choose you, right? He has to pass his breath of life into you, and then you're bestowed with for Melisandre, it's shadowbinding, right? So shadowbinding is a form of magic that the way Melisandre describes it to Jon in her POV is like the Lord of Light bestows the ability to weave light onto his followers. So Melisandre would weave light over the Lord of Bones' face and made him pretend to be Mance Rayder, right? So Melisandre can weave light. She can bind shadows, pull the shadows together, like cease them from moving, and then weave light. So she binds shadows and weaves light. What does this mean? Well, I think the Shadow Baby is a glamour in which she binds shadows into her will, right? And she has to use someone else's pain, so their blood, right? Stannis' semen, and it doesn't just take, he doesn't just drop a load. He loses about 5 to 10 years of his life, right? But Melisandre doesn't want to tell people that. She doesn't want to tell Stannis that. It's like Stannis is becoming king, but at what cost? He's losing not just his humanity. He's literally going to die. He's going to shrivel up and die because she's sucking his essence to bind shadow and weave light. Holy shit, Sir Hunt, you're on another level, dude. Damn, I just got to stop and say, man, I'm killing it. That's what happens when you read the chapter 3 times. But yeah, so she's binding shadow and weaving light. What's interesting is that Jon Snow is going to be a firewhite, right? He's going to be brought back. I think everybody agrees with that. He's a warg. So how is his ability going to change when he comes back? That's exciting as shit. He's a firewhite that has the ability to warg. Will that ability be taken from him? Like, obviously, he's going to, Melisandre sees it. He's a man, then a wolf, then a man again, right? But will he use that ability? Will he lose that ability, rather, to warg after that? It's kind of weird. Melisandre she glamours. It's kind of funny. She shows that she has the ability to sort of just flicker, throw her magic out there, and make it look effortless, yes. But she literally glamours Ghost, Jon Snow's dog, to make Jon look like a stranger, right? So Jon Snow's walking outside, Ghost beside him. Melisandre rolls up. Melisandre asks if she could pet Ghost, and Jon's like, I don't know, I wouldn't do that. He doesn't, not kindly to strangers. And he does his dog thing. He walks up to Melisandre and sniffs her asshole. Gotcha. Walks up to Melisandre and lets her pet him. And then Jon tries to call Ghost back, and Ghost looks over at him like, nigga, who the fuck are you? You are a stranger. Yeah, I'm scratching my nuts right now, so I wasn't throwing my hands around, but still. So yeah, she basically makes, Ghost see a stranger, which is just cool. I just wanted to say that, how powerful she is. Also, I mentioned this before in my Melisandre videos, but it's really dope that she has all these little pockets with all these little powders, right? She eventually thinks to herself, after she does one more great magic of, thing, she won't have to use those powders anymore because she will be sort of believed, right? So it's interesting. It kind of seems as though she's like, she does have some magic to her. She's a shadowbinder, right? We just established that. But also, she kind of feels like she's running a con game, right? Which is why some people say, like, she's all fake. She can't interpret her fucking dream, her fire visions. Not a dream. She actually hates dreams. She doesn't want to dream. And it's because Like, most of the POVs in A Song of Ice and Fire, when she dreams, she sees terrible things. But it's almost like, is it the truth? You don't want to dream because you'll see the truth? Because a lot of other characters have really fucked up versions of dreams, but truth is revealed in them, right? So Jaime, when he's standing over his father's bier, or around this time, he has this dream where he sees, at first he thinks it's Cersei, but then he realizes it's his mom, right? And then his mom says, or he asks his mom, why are you upset? Why would Tywin be upset? His daughter is the queen, and I'm, the best knight in the land kind of thing. Like, I'm the king's guard. And then she's like, are you? Are you? And then she just disappears, right? So that's the truth revealing. Like, Jaime, after that moment, sort of changes his whole shit. It's honestly after Catelyn releases him, and he's tired of everybody calling him Kingslayer, and he wants to get some honor back, right? But ultimately, that dream made Jaime see some truths, and that, like, he's actually a fucking fucked up individual, and so is Cersei, and maybe he should try to do some good things for a fucking change, right? But getting back on track here, I did have some Bloodraven connections. Completely forgot those. Oh, yeah. Okay, so, look. There are many gods in A Song of Ice and Fire. At one point, there were, at least, right? I've talked about this a bunch. They probably died the fuck off. The only ones that are still around are the most powerful ones. The ones that only, like, it's probably a hierarchy of gods, right? There was probably a god of ice that was also the god of earth, trees, water, right? Those different deities are worshipped by different civilizations in Westeros and Essos and stuff, and all over the world, Sothrios and Ulthos and, Ancos and Pachos and Pichos, all those places, right? But for the most part, they all have very similar things, similarities that run throughout their cultures and their old wives' tales. Tales from the Age of Heroes for the First Men are similar to tales that you hear about the Long Night over in Essos, right? Similar heroes. A dude emerges with a flaming sword to lead the world from darkness, right? Ultimately, there's only two left, I think, right? An ice one, who also encompasses all of those other things that I said, so river, water, earth, right? And then a fire one, and that fire one is a bringer of life, but also the bringer of death, right? Destruction. Right now, the two of them are out of whack. It's the reasons why the seasons are so long. I think there was a massive war between the gods. They had their champions on Earth. That's what the Age of Heroes was, right? Afterwards, it was the first Pact of Ice and Fire. And in that first Pact of Ice and Fire was literally like, yo, we are the most powerful deities. As long as we can remain in balance, the world will still turn. But when one of us starts to get too powerful, i.e. when too many dragons are around, you gotta nix that. You gotta settle down. You gotta bring it down a bit. So, White Walkers come out, right? When there's too many of them, dragons emerge to go kill the White Walkers. But ultimately, the dragons are still around. Dragons become too encumbersome, and then White Walkers come again. That's the big whole way this, I'm making an infinity sign. That's the whole way that world works, I think. So with that being said, Bloodraven and Melisandre are two different, they're champions for two different deities, right? Melisandre even says Stannis is, Lord of Light's champion. That's why she says, you can't even show me, like, she's thinking to herself, you can't even show me Stannis in the fucking Flames Ruler? Like, fucking, he's your champion, right? So all she sees is Jon Snow, right? So Jon Snow's Azor Ahai. That's what she's going to say, but, something made her see Stannis as Azor Ahai, so it's almost like, hey, what's going on there? But ultimately, neither Breanne, right, or Jon, right, because they're going to be the eventual champions. Jon's going to be R'hllor, Breanne will be Bloodraven, the Great Other, right, the wooden god, right? They're not going to, neither of them are evil, right? When you understand the whole picture, that, like, Bloodraven has to consume human flesh to continue to do what he does, which is sort of watch over the world. Dragons have to continue burning and destroying things, and that's kind of what they do, right? Ultimately, neither of them are evil, right? It's neither good nor bad, but gray. And that's George's favorite thing to do. He took Tolkien's idea of, well, something can be pure evil and something can be purely good, and that's mostly how the world is, black and white, right? George took that idea and turned it on its head and made it, in my opinion, more realistic. Whereas, like, Tolkien's writing during a time where he's, he fought in World War I or whatever, That was the first time the whole world was at war. So that turned his viewpoint into what it is. And a lot of people respect that, myself included, right? Why do I sound like a mobster? But yeah, no. So ultimately, I feel like Breanne, R'hllor, Melisandre, Jon Snow, the Great Other, right? They all are neither good nor bad, but in the middle, they do evil things, but they also do good things, and they need to be brought into a semblance of synchronicity. And you do that by having, Bloodraven is the king beyond the wall. People don't realize that, but Bloodraven literally was the king of the North, the true North, right? Robb Stark was a pretender. It's mentioned through all the POVs in A Song of Ice and Fire. Ultimately, Jon Snow is going to be, the new king of the North, but still a pretender, right? Breanne is the true king of the North. Ultimately, hopefully, Jon will get with Daenerys. Jon will become the king of the South, right? The king of fire, right? And then Breanne will be the king of winter. Daenerys will be the queen of fire. If Jon's not in that picture, it's just hard to tell, We kind of need Winds of Winter. So this was about 16 minutes, and this was just like a part 2 of the one to earlier. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you all enjoyed this and were entertained. Along night, the Zelda moves down, Star Wars.